going on, everybody? So look at this. Every time I make a new damn video sitting down in this chair, you got a new room set up behind you. Now this one is a work in progress. We just rearranged the entire apartment. Oh, hi, Canelo. Okay, I guess come here. Want to say hi to everybody before we start? Come here. Before I get trashed online. Oof-ah. Say hi, Canelo. I'll be right back, alright? Go ahead, go lay down. I'll be with you. So, yeah, I feel like every time I record there's a new room set up. Now, obviously, this room is not polished, furnished, or anything. I just literally, this was me and Grace's bedroom. Now it's going to be my game room. As you can tell, it's our bedroom from Grace's big Simpsons poster, but I got my Goodfellas poster behind it, so it's fine. But no, this room's a work in progress, guys. Much to do, but that's not even the point of this video. The point of this video is one that's going to probably garner a lot of negative attention because people just don't like to hear the truth. We're talking about Patrick Kane, the New York Rangers. So, let's talk, because there's much to talk about. So, I'm going to go ahead and say this. Throttle your expectations. Patrick Kane is not going to be traded for the world. If Jack Eichel wasn't traded for the world, and he had, 5 or 6 years left on a contract, and he's 24 years old, what the hell makes you think a 34-year-old Patrick Kane with a year and a half left on his contract is going to get traded for the world? We're going to go over that. Let's talk. First things first. We got to find comparables. If you're trading for Patrick Kane straight up, the best comparable is Marty St. Louis. Here's why. Both players, assuming Patrick Kane is traded at the deadline, which I don't think will happen, but if it does happen, if he's traded at the NHL trade deadline, he, like Marty St. Louis, will have 1 and roughly a half years left on their contracts. Marty St. Louis' cap hit at the time of his trade was 8.75% of the salary cap. Patrick Kane's at 12.9%. Now, granted, Patrick Kane was a little bit more productive than Marty St. Louis it was at the time of his trade. So, 68 and 57. St. Louis, 61 and 62. So, Patrick Kane being a little bit younger and putting up better numbers than Marty St. Louis is going to get the nod here. Where Patrick Kane does not get the nod, where Marty St. Louis got the nod, is that in 2013-2014, the Tampa Bay Lightning were a pretty high up there playoff contender, finishing second in their division. What the hell do I keep clicking on? Finishing second in their division. And the Chicago Blackhawks currently sit, Chicago Blackhawks currently sit 8th in the wild card race and are about 15 points out of a playoff spot. So where Patrick Kane makes up value for being younger and producing more, he loses value in that the Marty St. Louis trade did not need to happen for the Tampa Bay Lightning, and they were essentially bribed to move Marty St. Louis when they didn't have to. So there was added value to fully convince them. The Tampa Bay Lightning were in no way rebuilding. They were a playoff team, as we just saw. A young and up-and-coming one that traded their captain. So if we're looking at this, so we got this, right? 12.9% Kaner, 8.75 in St. Louis. We see Patrick Kane as a player, still putting up really good numbers. Marty St. Louis, good numbers, was a little bit older at the time of the trade. Why is Ryan McDonough there? Well, you're going to see why Ryan McDonough is there in one moment. So, going back to the Chicago Blackhawks, let's be honest. They need to rebuild. Pretty sure it was their GM that said, getting ready for a rebuild. What is the point of rebuilding if you're going to hold on to a potentially very expensive asset that is going to do the opposite of want to rebuild? Patrick Kane is a damn good hockey player. If you're trying to lose hockey games, why would he be on your team? From a business perspective, if you are trying to lose, trying to acquire draft picks, trying to acquire prospects, and trying to finish lower in the standings to get better draft picks, why would you hold on to players that are aging, are not going to be here for the next era of playoff runs, and are going to make that task of getting a better draft pick harder? Now, granted, some teams just don't care and are totally fine with getting mediocre draft picks or picking in a mediocre spot in the draft and kind of being in that tweener land where they never really finish at the top of their division. If that's the case with Blackhawks, fine. Then don't trade Patrick Kane. See how much I care. I really don't. The Rangers don't need Patrick Kane. But I like Patrick Kane, yes. But we don't need Patrick Kane. I just think, as someone who just went through a rebuild with the Rangers, moving as many assets as you have for younger players and picks is the best thing to do. And if your emotional self does not want to trade Patrick Kane because of everything he's done for you, fine. That's on you. But I'm just saying, if you want to undergo a successful rebuild and do that rebuild to the best of your ability, so that when you come out of the rebuild, you have as many assets as you need to either A, acquire players to compete, or B, grow those players you have to compete longer term. You make the damn choice. You make the damn choice. This is Chicago Blackhawks salary cap situation, okay? Honestly, not bad at all. $3.62 million. Really don't have any big names coming off the books. I mean, Kubalik and Strome, we know they've been trying to trade Strome for a while. Ryan Carpenter, Kirby Dach, probably won't even be that hard to re-sign. Nothing really crazy here, right? Nothing worth noting. They're probably not going to re-sign Fleury. There's nothing here that makes it so that Blackhawks need to shred salary, and no one is saying that at all. All right, if anything, they're in a pretty good salary cap situation considering the fact that a lot of money is going to be coming off the books this season. Now, with that being said, if we take a look at their prospect pool, it's kind of dead. It is kind of dead. They got Lucas Reichel, who they drafted, I think, 17th overall 2 years ago. I could be wrong on that. I believe it was 17th. I know it was 2 years ago, but after that, Colton Dach, second-round pick in this past year. I don't even know who that is. Ian Mitchell, but he's 23 now. Nolan Allen was the 32nd overall pick last year. I believe the 32nd overall pick last year. Nicholas Bowden, who's now 22 years old. It's like they don't really have a great goalie prospect. They haven't really accrued very much young up-and-coming assets. They don't really have very many top prospects. They have a couple good prospects in Reichel and Dach and Nolan Allen, and that's honestly it. They really don't have much in the way of prospects and young talent coming up, especially after trading Boqvist. Well, I guess they got Alex Vlasic, but it's honestly it. They don't got much going on right now. So, with that being said, I wanted to model a Patrick Kane trade around the JT Miller and Ryan McDonagh trade. So, the JT Miller and Ryan McDonagh trade. So, the Rangers acquired Vladislav Nemeskov, who had a year and a half left. He was 26 years old at the time of his trade. Was a mediocre third-line player. Did not really have much growth left to do. You kind of knew what you had at that point. Just a decent third-line player. You got Brett Howden and Libor Hayek, who both at the time are considered B-level prospects. A first-round pick and a conditional second-round pick. So, not even a guaranteed first-round pick from the Tampa Bay Lightning. The only way this second-round pick was going to be a first-round pick was if the Tampa Bay Lightning won the Stanley Cup in 2018 or 2019. Obviously, they don't like the Rangers enough because they didn't win it until 2020. And the Rangers traded Ryan McDonagh, who at the time, this was 4 years ago, was 28 years old. He had a year and a half left on his deal, making $4.7 million per year. JT Miller, I believe, had years of control. I think he was 24. Was this 4 years ago? 25. And was putting up good enough numbers for the Rangers. I mean, did not need to be traded in any stretch of the imagination. So, you can see I have Brandon Hagel here. I would like to think that JT Miller had probably more value than Brandon Hagel. And even though this is not a great return for the New York Rangers, this is the value of trading two. Well, I'll put it this way. JT Miller and Ryan McDonagh, probably, I think Miller and McDonagh have more value. But Miller and McDonagh will call roughly the same value of that of Brandon Hagel and Patrick Kane combined. Let's just go ahead and say that for argument's sake. We're using historical trade data. If you're new to this channel, if you've never seen my videos before, I never base a trade on just what I think is going to happen. Because if you base a trade on what you think is going to happen, you're going to either overvalue or undervalue players. Right now, if you base it on historical data, which I've been doing in these videos for a very long time, and everyone calls me stupid and wrong, but I always end up being right. I'm sorry, I gotta toot my own horn there because quite often the NHL is a very boring league. Okay, let's be honest. It's a boring league. Things that happened in the past are likely going to happen again in the future. It's easy to take historical trade data and base it on future trade data and what might happen. For me, this is the best comparable trade in recent history. This was about 4 years ago. Two good NHL players, one of them on an expiring deal, one of them with term, traded to a team that wants to win now. And the Rangers were just entering a rebuild the same way the Chicago Blackhawks are about to enter a rebuild. This trade comparable does not get any freaking better. In my opinion. If you can find another one, send it to me. I'd love to evaluate it because I do enjoy looking at historical trade data. So, again, Ryan McDonagh, year and a half expiring, 28 years old, 5 years younger than Patrick Kane is now. JT Miller had years of control, 25 years old. I want to say he was 2 years away from RFA. I could be wrong on that. I think that's what it was. For a third-line 25-year-old in Vladislav Nemeskov, we knew what he was. 2 B prospects, a first-round pick, a conditional first if they won the Stanley Cup. So basically a second-round pick. So here's what I ended up drawing up. Filipino, Matthew Robertson, Vitaly Kravtsov, 2 first-round picks for Patrick Kane at 50% salary retained, and Brandon Hagel. The difference is these are guaranteed first-round picks. There are no conditions on these. Vitaly Kravtsov, Matthew Robertson, and Filipino. Filipino, in my opinion, has a lot more value than what Vladislav Nemestikov had then. Vladislav Nemestikov at the time of the trade was making around $4 million per year and had a year and a half left till UFA. Filipino, if the trade was made today, had 3 years left, ends on an RFA year. I believe he'll be 25 or 26 years old, all RFA. So years of control, making $2.3 million. So even years of control after his contract expires. Matthew Robertson would be a Libor Haya comparable. I can't believe I'm saying that out loud. Matthew Robertson would be a B-level prospect. Vitaly Kravtsov would be a B-level prospect. Now, if you compare him to that of Brett Howden, it's kind of similar in a sense. I think Vitaly Kravtsov's ceiling was always higher than Brett Howden's, even Brett Howden at the time of the Ryan McDonough trade. Vitaly Kravtsov right now probably be a B-level prospect, former 9th overall pick, and years of control. I believe Kravtsov's 22 years old. So maybe if you're concerned about age, I think Howden was 21 at the time of the trade, whereas Kravtsov was 22. You know, give and take. Brett Howden's ceiling was viewed as being a good third-line center, whereas Vitaly Kravtsov's ceiling is still viewed as being a really good top-6 winger. And then obviously your 2 first-round picks. Now, I think the difference between the Rangers' first-round picks and Tampa Bay's first-round picks, Tampa Bay at the time was super overcompensating when they got Miller and McDonough. They were light years ahead of where the New York Rangers are now, so I want to believe that these picks have more value than the picks the Rangers got back from the Tampa Bay Lightning. Granted, this pick probably isn't worth as much as one of those picks because we're going into a weaker draft than that of the 2018 draft, but the 2023 draft is really strong, so trading a first-round pick in that draft is a little bit risky for the Rangers. Getting Patrick Kane at 50% retained makes him easy to have this year and next year with all the re-signings the Rangers have to do. We're going to see that in part 2 of this armchair GM I drew up. And Brandon Hagel, we saw earlier this year that Brandon Hagel's value is roughly that of a first-round pick. JT Miller, at the time of his trade, was probably worth a first-round pick and a prospect. So, if we're really drawing that comparable, personally, if I'm the Chicago Blackhawks, I'm valuing Brandon Hagel at a first-round pick and like a C or B level prospect. I think Hagel is close to, if he doesn't already have 20 goals this year. He's making $1.5 million a year for the next 3 years, so technically 2.5. I think Brandon Hagel alone is probably worth a first-round pick. And if I'm picking from the Rangers, another random player, maybe like a Julian Gauthier, just like someone that's like mid-level, probably already in the NHL, has games left and is just going to slot in. Kind of almost like what Ryan Sproul and some of the younger assets the Rangers picked up during their rebuilding years. Something along those lines. A guy that might be between 22 and 24 years old, never really hit a ceiling in the NHL. You give him a chance and you see what happens. I think that's what Hagel will be worth, like a first-round pick and Julian Gauthier. But either way, we're putting Kravtsov, Robertson, and Hito because they all have a lot more valuable in Julian Gauthier, 2 first-round picks. If you don't think this is a good haul for the Chicago Blackhawks, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. This is more value than the Buffalo Sabres got for Jack Eichel, or maybe at least close to that. Again, we're going to recap real quick. Filipino, 3 years left on his current contract, right? 3 years left on his current contract, $2.3 million a year, expires as an RFA, former first-round pick. Matthew Robertson, B-level prospect, 20 years old, former second-round pick. Vitaly Kravtsov, former 9th overall pick, 22 years old. The only problem with Vitaly Kravtsov is management doesn't like him. Chris Drury, not going to lie, kind of a dick. They never really gave Kravtsov a chance. David Quinn did not like him. David Quinn not liking him gave him a bad reputation throughout the organization. He fled back to Russia twice. Just not a good look for the kid. Doesn't affect his ceiling, does not affect his value. In my opinion, the kid's still going to be an excellent top 6 winger in the NHL one day. Former 9th overall picks do not get traded just like that easy. At least I don't think so. And then 2 first-round picks for Patrick Kane and Brandon Hagel. I think is a pretty good McDonough-Miller comparison. Now, what does this do for the New York Rangers? So, right off the rip, you got to assume Patrick Kane is getting right back with his buddy, Artemi Panarin. I think the whole reason Patrick Kane is even connected with the Rangers is because of Artemi Panarin and the chemistry they had when they played together in Chicago. Patrick Kane, again, was the only reason Chicago Blackhawks were even in the hunt for Artemi Panarin when he became a free agent 2 years ago. So, if the Rangers this is the Rangers team I would envision going into the playoffs for the 2021-2022 season, the season that we sit in right now. Your first line has not changed. Lafreniere, Kreider, Zibanejad, Panarin, Strome, Kaner, Kapokako should be healthy, but come playoff time, he started skating this week. He should be back next week. Hagel, Gaudreau, Kapokako. I don't think Barclay Goodrow should be subject to going back to the 4th line, especially when you lose Filipino. You need a guy that can take faceoffs. You're not going to put Kevin Rooney on that 3rd line. You're not going to force Hagel to be center. I would put Gaudreau as that 3rd line center. Reliable, chippy forward. This line could end up surprising you. Hunt, Rooney, Reeves as your 4th line. Johnny Hockey earned more than just his ice time. He's fine. He could stay in the NHL. Broads, Kegger, High, because you scratches. Lindgren, Fox, Miller, Trouba, Nemeth, and Keandre Miller. I'm sorry, Nemeth and Schneider. Now, this is just assuming this is the only trade the Rangers make. If the Rangers are going to make another trade, I'd imagine it'd be for a third pairing defenseman. Even though Patrick Nemeth has not been terrible since coming back from his really elongated leave that still is unexplained aside from the birth of a child, I don't think the Rangers end up making another move. I really don't. I think if they get Kane and Hagel for that package that we saw right here, I really don't see them making another move. If they do make another depth move, it'd probably be third pairing defenseman. I pray God not Ben Sherratt because he freaking sucks and he would not be an upgrade over Nemeth. If it's like a Mark Giordano for like a second and a mediocre prospect, maybe something like that. But other than that, I really don't see the Rangers doing anything else. I saw something the other day, and this seems like such a crock of shit because if the Toronto Maple Leafs are doing this and then the Rangers don't jump all over it, they're out of their friggin' minds. I saw something that the Rangers would trade Georgiev and a mid-round pick for William Nylander. I don't know who the hell is smoking that crack. If it's Dubas or a writer, I don't know. I want to pull up that article just so you know I'm not BSing. This is the past 24 hours. Shoot, I forget where it was. Now I'm going to look like a jerk off saying that. Hold on. We're going to Twitter real quick. Just so you know I'm not playing around. And this was actually like a legitimate thing. I think it was Steven that actually oh, great. Great. Schwarber to the freaking Phillies. So now the Mets are going to get murdered by someone else. I remember I could have swore it was Steven that retweeted it. Just so you know I'm not playing around like this was actually a legitimate thing. Here we go. It was Elliot Friedman that said it. Okay. If the Rangers could get Nylander for Georgiev and a mid-round pick, I'd imagine it would have happened already. I don't think Chris Drury's that stupid. If that was the case, yeah, I could see the Rangers trading Georgiev and a mid-round pick for William friggin' Nylander. I don't think that happens. I'm not sure what Elliot Friedman was speculating. I don't know. Listen, I trust Elliot Friedman. The guy's pretty spot on with all his stuff. I just think this is a little bizarre. I think everyone would agree that's a little bizarre that Nylander be traded for like any of these goalies and a mid-round pick. I think that's a little odd. Now, if that was the case, yeah, I'd freaking take it. And that would certainly spell the end for Ryan Strome. I think if the Rangers did go that route of getting William Nylander on top of what we just saw now, then Nylander would end up being your third-line center. You'd push Gaudreau to the third-line wing. Hunt or Reeves would come out of the lineup. And then you have your second-line center and William Nylander next year. But we're only talking about Patrick Kane and Brandon Hagel right now. So let's pretend that trade happens. Year two. So we're talking about year two now. So the salary cap goes up $1 million, which was anticipated a few months ago. I saw it was going to go up about $1 million. So Hagel, Kane, yada yada yada. You don't see Robertson and Krasnodar. I didn't even bother throwing them in because we know they're gone. Nemeth, you're gonna have to bribe someone to take him away unless you can get value for him. And Georgiev, smell you later. I just clicked Toronto as the first team that came to mind. Does he get a third round pick? Maybe, maybe not. I really don't know. Even if it's not a third round pick, who gives a shit? We're not even talking about third round pick. We're talking about Georgiev and Nemeth being gone. What does that leave us with? $1.671 million in salary cap after we re-sign everybody. So again, Zibanejad's new contract starts $8.5 million a year. Kaner, 1 year left, that's salary retained. Sammy Blais, you re-sign him for $1.25, not the $1.5 he's first signed for last year after missing the entire season. I think you make him your second line center if you're not making any other moves. The reason I have him as my second line center, Sammy Blais has played center before. He's maybe not a great face-off taker, but that's something that could be learned and taught, especially when Patrick Kane and Artemi Panarin are your wingers. Sammy Blais, rugged style of play, hard forecheck, combined with some pretty undercover skill, as we saw in the preseason, that gross goal that Sammy Blais scored in the preseason. He's got enough skill and enough speed. He could probably keep up with Kane and Panarin. So who knows? If the Rangers were going to cameo anybody on that second line that could potentially keep up with those two, I would make it Sammy Blais, not Barclay Goodrow. Hagel stays on the third line with Goudreau and Capo Caco. Capo Caco signs a 2-year, $2 million a year contract. Really hasn't done enough to earn more money than that. If the Rangers could sign him at 8 years, $4.5 or $5 million a year, I would go for that. I just don't think it happens. They don't really have the cap space to do so. Reeves, Rooney, Hunt. You re-sign Kevin Rooney 1.3 times 2 years. I bet he signs for maybe, but that's really about it. Lindgren, Fox. Fox's new contract kicks in. Miller, Trouba, Jones, Schneider. So, only real problem with this team is going into next year, the year after this one, you got a lot of money you're going to need to end up tying up in Miller, Lafreniere, Jones. If you re-sign Hunt, you got to re-sign Hunt. Blais, It's a lot of question marks, but that seems like a problem for tomorrow. If you're trying to win today, you worry about tomorrow. But all in all, I honestly think it's a good haul for the Chicago Blackhawks. I think it would be a good move for the New York Rangers because it benefits us for this year and the following year. More trades can be made, more salary can be shredded. Who knows what else the Rangers have in mind? If the Rangers end up getting serious about moving Kaapo Kakko, you don't really got to worry about this $2 million. If they get serious about moving somebody else, who knows? So Ryan Lindgren's name popped up earlier this year in the Jacob Chikrin discussions. That could have just been speculation, but I don't know. You guys comment down below your thoughts. Was my trade comparable of Ryan McDonough and JT Miller trade reasonable? Was my Marty St. Louis comparable reasonable? Do you think my trade offer was reasonable? Why and why not? Aside from the fact that you feel this, you feel that, if you're gonna counter something I say, I only ask that you provide me with some sort of substance to it. Don't just tell me you feel or this, that, the other thing. I want to see some historical data and historical context, like I provided here. You guys comment below. What are your thoughts? I'll see you on the next one. Let's go Rangers. Trade deadline is 5 days away. See you next one. Peace.